Coming up, Miami city officials evacuate an apartment building because of structural concerns. We find out what's being done to make sure the residents have a roof over their heads. And a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. Also, how one local school district is using its federal COVID-19 relief funds. Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bonk. We continue with our heat today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the forecast.
One more day and we'll be able to lift the old advisory here. Let's take a live look over 7th and Rangeline. Another warm start to our Thursday morning. 79 degrees is where we stand. Wind is backed off just a tad. I wouldn't say it's a considerable amount, and really not enough to make a difference in the grand scheme of what it feels like right now. 75 in Pittsburgh, 79 in Miami and Chanute. Let's go 77 in Lamar and Nevada. So doesn't come as any surprise that, like I said, it's going to stick around for one more day. Excessive heat warning up to the north in KC where they've had theirs, but we just stay in the orange indicating the advisory. And now the advisories have shifted way to the east, running all the way pretty much to the mid-Atlantic up through Maine. Now our Skywatch storm tracker with a little bit of cloud cover down to the south, everybody for the central and northern portion of the 4 states. On the very clear side, as the jet stream is finally making its push, get that trough across the Mississippi River right there, and that'll be some welcome relief for us. Our weather trend for today, once again, mid-90s, topped out at 97 again yesterday. That's back-to-back 97s for us. And future track for today on the dry side. Now tomorrow, then we begin to pick up a little rain activity for Friday night into Saturday morning. As it moves in from the north, should be overnight, done by about, say mid-Friday morning. And then we actually get to enjoy temperatures that I would say are more seasonable. I'm not going to say cool, but more seasonable for Saturday and Sunday, as we'll have 87 and 90, and then just roll low 90s all through the beginning of next week. That's not too bad.
I'm looking forward to Saturday with a little bit of a cool down.
Yeah, and a little bit of rain too. That won't hurt.
We'll need it by then. All right, thank you, Michael. Well, housing complex in Miami is being evacuated due to structural concerns. Renovations have been in the works at the Miami Towers, and an engineering survey of the building's structure found big concerns. The city received a report yesterday morning, which led to an immediate evacuation order. It's a stressful situation for many who have had to call on friends and family to help them scramble. Since it is low-income housing, having to rent a moving truck would be a burden. But the Miami Housing Authority has found temporary housing for residents, and they're standing by to help people move. And several of the tenants are using the help of their friends and family to get the bare essentials, what they can fit in a car, and move to their new temporary home.
We're having to scramble to get our stuff together. We're having to get essentials right now, and then we're allowed back in 3 or 4 days later to get the rest of our stuff. But right now they're basically just wanting everybody to get out.
Once renovations are complete, residents can move back in if they choose to. There's no word on how long those renovations may take. Well, a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. A groundbreaking on the Lazy Boy Neosho campus Wednesday marks the start of a $30 million expansion of its 550,000 square foot plant. The furniture making plant that began operations in 1970 currently employs about 950 workers and intends to hire 100 more. The expansion includes various upgrades and renovations throughout the upholstery plant, a new medical clinic for employees and their families, and a new parts distribution center. The Neosho School District has received more than $1 million as part of the federal aid from the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, or ESSER, as they call it. They say last year the money was used for sanitation and other methods for keeping students and staff safe. They plan to continue that, but intend to focus on 3 main areas.
Our district, we are focusing on taking care of our facilities, making sure that our student success, academic achievement goes up with how we spend these funds, and then also how do we support our teaching staff.
The district says some other goals they have for these funds are to sanitize the schools and make it easier to practice social distancing. A message from the father of a 1-year-old boy in a Springfield hospital with COVID. The baby is on oxygen. His father makes it very clear it's not just adults who can suffer. Carter was born 3 months premature last year. The family spent quite a bit of time at hospitals caring for their little one. And after months of health and progress, the family thought he was done with hospitals. Michael Van Schook has their story.
There's no smaller feeling than watching someone who can't even speak for themselves go through that and you not be able to help.
Alongside worry and unease, feelings of familiarity consume an Arkansas family tonight. 1-year-old Carter Buttram spent many months needing special care after he was born 3 months early.
I spent 5 months wondering if he was ever going to come home. I thought we were done with the major hospital things, and now here I am a year later, wondering if he's ever going to make it home again.
Sentiments of vulnerability exist once again, but this time because of COVID-19. Carter had cold symptoms at daycare late last week, but RSV and COVID tests came back negative. Yesterday, things got worse.
Last night, in the middle of the night, he just could not, it just seemed like he couldn't catch his breath. I mean, he was breathing, but the coughing was intense.
A stop at Cox in Branson then turned into an emergency trip to Cox South. Carter is now requiring oxygen.
He's just exhausted and is doing everything he can. Say he's only 1 year old, and there's only so much a 1-year-old can do that's fully exhausted.
While Carter is with his mom at Cox South, the anxiety still sticks with his father while he can't be at his son's side. His son stays on his mind.
For something that's avoidable, it's not fair to him.
Carter's father says he doesn't want anyone to experience what he's going through. He wants people to know the virus truly can affect anyone.
It happened to my 1-year-old, regardless of whatever you think. You're a part of the fabric of the community.
And as a community, he says everyone should do their part, starting with the vaccine.
To just actively choose not to do it is to actively put someone else in danger.
Carter's father says getting vaccinated is not just about you, it's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, especially young children. Now, Crowder also announced a new partnership with Ozarks Christian College. It allows OCC students to easily transfer between schools using credits and earn certificates from OCC.
And we certainly have prospective students who, in addition to our curriculum, would have interest in some of the offerings of Crowder. And so an agreement like this, where we're simply declaring, hey, we work together well, we'll let those students know that they can explore that educational relationship in greater detail.
OCC is located on North Main Street in Joplin. It's 5:07.
Advisory for one more day with the south wind kind of backing off a little bit, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And then overnight, we got some rain that's going to begin to work in from the north. So as we approach really about midnight, then we see it begin to formulate, and it's going to drop from north to south down on us. Not looking at anything severe. We're just good old-fashioned, some portions are good old-fashioned heavy rain. And then clearing out as we get toward Friday afternoon. And the nice thing is that's really going to help us temperature-wise. Friday's still going to be pretty warm, but Saturday and Sunday much more manageable.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, coronavirus outbreaks.
COVID outbreaks are already forcing schools to send students back home. I'm Bradley Blackburn with the challenges facing districts as more kids get sick.
Plus, we take a look at the new era of Seneca High School football that began this week. And it's National Vinyl Record Day. For our Something to Talk About, we're asking, do you ever listen to music on a record player? You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
A new era of Seneca High School football begins this week. The Indians in the middle of their first week of practice in their first season under head coach Cody Hilburn. Hilburn, a Seneca High School graduate who comes over from Carthage. That's where Hilburn served as offensive coordinator under Carthage head coach John Guidy. Hilburn takes over a team looking to bounce back from a 3-7 season. The Indians say they're not worried about the record right now. It's about getting better every day.
Our expectation has kind of been the same all summer and starting right now. We just want to get 1% better every time we're out here on the practice field and hopefully be playing our best football at the end of the year. It's hot out here now, and the thing about a kid from Seneca, that stuff doesn't seem to bother them. It's just good kids that get out here and they work hard, and that's all we can ask from them.
Seneca opens the season August 27th. We'll do so at home against Marshfield. Yesterday was the opening day of fall practice for Missouri Southern volleyball. Lions did not get to play last fall, but they did play a spring schedule, went 5-3 against MIAA opponents. Southern begins its regular season schedule on September the 3rd, going to play in the Drury Invitational. Now, the Lions lost 4 seniors to graduation, but they have 5 starters back and excited to get back to MIAA action that actually counts.
Keep stats last year. We didn't have the true all-conference team, the championship, all that. So even though we got to play an extended off-season, I think this still feels like, wow, we haven't done this preseason in so long.
We've got a lot of new girls on our team, so finding like our groove and things like that's really cool. And a lot of returners, we've been here all summer working out and stuff, so it's nice to be able to be like in the gym, put all that work that we had all summer like into practice.
Kansas City Royals split the first 2 games of their series with the Yankees this week. Royals got game 2 last night, or other night, 8-4. KC trying to take the series from New York in front of the team's part owner, Patrick Mahomes. In the first, Luke Voigt with the bases loaded goes the other way. That scores 2 Yankees as New York takes an early lead. Next batter, Rougned Odor adds to it. He singles and scores another one. All of a sudden, the Royals are down 3-0 after the first inning. And then they piled on. In the 4th, Aaron Judge, RBI single right up the middle, pushes the Yankees lead to 5-1. The Royals just never able to get it going. Even in the 5th, when Whit Merrifield takes to the gap, Tyler Wade robs him. Yankees take the game and the series. Final score of this one, 5-2. In the National League, Game 2 between the Cardinals and Pirates. St. Louis won Game 1 the other night, 4-1. For their 3rd win in 4 tries. Adam Wainwright was awesome last night. Complete game shutout. He needed just 88 pitches to finish it off. Allowed 2 hits, struck out 7. Wainwright, the oldest pitcher to throw a complete game shutout since Bartolo Colon. Cardinals win it 4-0. One of the best to do it for Pitt State is coming back to John Lance Arena. His former Gorilla, Michaela Burgess, is going to serve as an assistant coach this season for head coach Amanda David and the PSU women's basketball team. Burgess played for Pitt State from 2015 to 2018, helped make the team make 3 trips to the national tournament as she finished her career with more than 1,800 points. University of Missouri introducing its new athletic director. Desiree Reed-Francois will be the first woman to hold the position at the school. She's been involved with intercollegiate athletics for more than 25 years, most recently serving as the athletic director at UNLV. Reed-Francois also spent time at numerous other institutions, including Virginia Tech, University of Tennessee, and San Jose State University. She and her husband have a son who is attending MU this fall as a journalism student. Back off, kid. Some of us still need jobs as older people, okay? Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, the Taliban takeover.
Taliban are moving quickly now to fill the security vacuum left by the withdrawal of American troops. I'm Benjamin Hall in London with all the details coming up.
And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Give your store. This is home.
Had to wait for the red light to come on. 5:19, so a little past weather on the 7s, but still a good time for it. Now, speaking of 7s and speaking of 9s, 97 yesterday, back-to-back days of 97. Remember, we had Tuesday ended up being the hottest day of 2021. All we did was Turn around, back it up with straight another 97. 79, a whole bunch of inverse numbers today. That's where we stand over 7th and Rangeline right now. Wind coming in still at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. 77 in Lamar. Let's go 79 in Shadut. 79 as well in Miami. Now, the wind is not going to be as blustery as it has been past couple of days. You know, we've been talking about 20 miles per hour sustained afternoon winds, 30-mile-an-hour gusts. We'll just kind of roll that 10 to 15-mile per variety today. With cloud cover down to the south, but everybody is staying on the dry side right now. Of course, we know there's a heat advisory that lasts all the way until 8 o'clock tonight, but this should be our last day of having to worry about that. But look at the advisories and warnings for all the heat. Stretches now all the way to the mid-Atlantic up to around Maine. It's going to be a scorcher on the East Coast this weekend as that jet stream just kind of pushes all that heat to the east. But one thing that will do is actually give us a little bit of a break, because while we have another hot one today, we'll be up there around, I wouldn't be surprised if we just don't repeat the 97 today. Overnight, we do have some rain that's going to move in from the north. So as we approach Thursday night, Friday morning, here it comes dropping down. And we're not looking at anything severe, but that's some pretty good heavy rain right there for tonight into tomorrow morning. It shouldn't really affect the commute too much. If you're going to be headed north, obviously you're going to run into it earlier. And then as this thing kind of disperses there for Friday morning, shouldn't affect the Friday morning commute either. So that won't be too bad. And then we can actually settle down and have temperatures in the high 80s or low 90s there for the weekend into next week. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta Poll. As it turns out, today is National Vinyl Record Day. So if you're not in the habit of listening to records, you can always go find that old record player, pull it out of the closet, hook it up, and see what records you got there in the basement. Our question to you specifically on the poll this morning: do you ever listen to music on a record player? Seeing as how there's so many options and platforms to do it on right now, curious to see how many of you go old school with me. You can make your voice heard by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Healthwatch is next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, hospital admissions are on the rise across the Sun Belt as the Delta variant of COVID-19 continues to spread. It's also causing children to need medical attention at an increasing rate now that school is underway in parts of the country. CBS's Bradley Blackburn has the latest on the pandemic.
Just days into the school year, students are being sent home due to coronavirus outbreaks.
She instantly starts crying her little eyes out. It's sad.
Eden Lucas had just started kindergarten in Brown County, Indiana. Her school had more than 20% of students absent due to COVID-19. They hope to bring kids back next week and may also require masks. At Eastside Elementary in Cobb County, Georgia, it took only 9 days before a class of 5th graders was sent home after an outbreak.
This morning when I put the kids on the bus, I had absolutely zero indication that we were going to, even a remote chance that they were going to go remote.
At least 4 Georgia school districts have stopped in-person classes. Some parents say there need to be safety measures in place when kids return.
We need to bring back the similar protocol we had last semester. There were barriers. The kids had masks.
Across the country, the debate around school mask mandates has become heated.
Actions have consequences. If you vote for this, we will come for you in a non-violent way.
According to the CDC, more than 1,600 children were admitted to hospitals due to COVID last week, nearly 4 times as many as the first week of July.
Not just the one patient, but the parents are positive, all the siblings are positive.
To help prevent those types of family outbreaks, California became the first state to announce it'll require all teachers to show proof of vaccination or take regular COVID-19 tests. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
On Wednesday, the CDC issued new guidance urging pregnant women to get vaccinated. Only 23% have received at least 1 dose. The CDC says new data shows no increased risk of miscarriage among those who got vaccinated. Researchers at the Washington University School of Medicine are using MRI scans to identify one of 6 common types of brain tumors. They believe this development could potentially automate the detection and classification of brain tumors, replacing invasive surgical procedures. Seating children near each other in school can promote friendships, even if they have little in common. A European study found proximity in the classroom led to increased friendships among students, including kids who differed in educational achievement, gender, or ethnicity. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
We'll be back up into the mid-90s later on today, and then we transition overnight into a little rain activity as it moves in from the north. Going to be from Thursday night into Friday morning. It's a little more sporadic there for the Friday morning commute. Nice thing is it will cool us off as we're going to drop down into the high 80s and low 90s over the weekend and then roll low 90s to begin next week. We'll be back right after this.
Coming up, Miami city officials evacuate an apartment building because of structural concerns. We find out what's being done to make sure residents have a roof over their heads. And a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. Also, how one local school district is using its federal COVID-19 relief funds.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach, and we continue our heat advisory again today. Let's go straight to Michael with the first look at our forecast.
One more day of heat, and we're also going to have to talk about some rain here today as well. Current conditions over 7th and Range Line sit at 79 degrees with sunrise over Joplin at 6:32. A whole bunch of 79s, and that'll include Miami and Chanute. We got Monette at 75, 78s for Carthage and Neosho. Our wind tracker backing off just a little bit. We'll go 10 to 15 miles per hour today instead of 15 to 20 like we did yesterday. That's some 30-mile-an-hour gusts yesterday afternoon. Cloud cover hanging down to the south, almost right in the dividing line right there. And as Tanya alluded to, there is our heat advisory stretching until 8 o'clock tonight. Not going to be extended, though. This will be our last day for it, so that's not too bad as the trough of the jet stream continues to push over the Great Lakes right there. Take that heat with it and kind of dispatch it toward the East Coast for the weekend. Weather trend going to put us up into the mid-90s. We've rolled back-to-back 97s for Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be right back there again today. Now let's talk about that rain, because as it formulates up to the north during this afternoon, it really won't be on us until tonight. Drops in from north to south. That's some pretty good rain. That thing's packing right there. We don't have anything severe to worry about as far as any hail or anything like that. But like I said, you get that red in there and that thing's going to come down. We're down about an inch of rain for the month of July. So ground should be able to absorb this all right. Don't really have any flooding concerns. And the 7-day forecast, the rain actually helps make it a little bit more mild there on Saturday and Sundays. We'll be high 80s, low 90s.
I'm looking forward to a little bit of a cool down.
A little bit, yeah, it'll be nice. Also, and really, I'm starting to notice the old grass starting to turn a little brown here with all the heat too. So the rain would be appreciated.
Yep, it sure will. All right, thanks, Michael. A housing complex in Miami is being evacuated due to structural concerns. Renovations have been in the works at the Miami Towers, and an engineering survey of the building's structure found big concerns. The city received a report yesterday morning, which led to an immediate evacuation order. It's a stressful situation for many who have had to call on friends and family to help them scramble. And since it is low-income housing, having to rent a moving truck would be a burden. But the Miami Housing Authority has found temporary housing for residents, and they're standing by to help people move. Several of the tenants are using the help of their friends and family to get the bare essentials, what they can fit in a car, and move to their new temporary home.
We're having to scramble to get our stuff together. We're having to get essentials right now, and then we're allowed back in 3 or 4 days later to get the rest of our stuff. But right now they're basically just wanting everybody to get out.
Once renovations are complete, residents can move back in if they choose to. There's no word on how long those renovations may take. The Neosho School District receives more than $1 million as part of the federal aid from the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, or ESSER. They say last year the money was used for sanitation and other methods for keeping students safe and staff safe. They plan to continue that, but intend to focus on 3 main areas.
In our district, we are focusing on taking care of our facilities, making sure that our student success, academic achievement goes up with how we spend these funds, and then also how do we support our teaching staff.
The district says some other goals they have for these funds are to sanitize the schools and make it easier to practice social distancing. Health officials say 5 more Jasper County residents have died due to COVID-19. They were 2 women in their 60s and 3 men, one in his 80s, one in his 60s, and one in his 30s. The death toll is attributed to COVID-19 now stands at 182 Jasper County residents, not counting those who lived in Joplin. Missouri Governor Mike Parson announced $30 million in coronavirus aid money will go towards the state's healthcare system. The money will be used for healthcare staffing for all Missouri licensed or CMS certified critical access, acute care, and long-term care hospitals. Funding will be based on a fixed staffing rate. A Tier 1 licensed or CMS certified facility will receive up to $50,000, while a Tier 5 licensed or CMS certified facility will receive up to $200,000. Money will also be used for 5 to 8 monoclonal antibody infusion stations strategically located throughout the state. Site selection will be made in conjunction with regional and local partners. Monoclonal antibodies are proteins that can help the body fight off COVID-19 and reduce the risk of severe disease and hospitalization if administered to high-risk patients soon after diagnosis. Well, a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. A groundbreaking on the Lazy Boy Neosho campus Wednesday marks the start of a $30 million expansion of its 550,000 square foot plant. The furniture making plant that began operations in 1970 currently employs about 950 workers and intends to hire 100 more. The expansion includes various upgrades and renovations throughout the upholstery plant, a new medical clinic for employees and their families, and a new parts distribution center. Caden Roy is entering his final season with Pitt State football. The Webb City High School product opted to return to PSU for one final season after the COVID year in 2020. While he's back and in the same number, Roy has switched positions on the defensive side, going from linebacker to defensive end. Here's head coach Brian Wright on the switch and why the move is working for one of his defensive leaders.
Just that leadership and that physicality and toughness, and he's just a good football player, and you need a really good football player to set the edge of the defense, and he does a great job of that, and he's built that way. He has great size and strength for that position, so I think it's been a great fit for us.
That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. For less than $200, former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani will record a personalized message for fans. Plus, the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan accelerates. We'll have the latest as the Biden administration projects Kabul could fall within 3 months. But first, it's 5:37.
Up into the mid-90s with a heat advisory lasting until 8 o'clock tonight. And when it does expire, that's when the rain will begin to move in. And at times, it's going to come down pretty good clip right there. Take us into Friday morning with mild temperatures on the backside. High 80s, low 90s for the weekend.
Topping World Watch, the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan is accelerating. As the Biden administration projects the capital of Kabul could fall within 3 months, President Biden reiterated the U.S. troop withdrawal is going to happen, and Afghans must fight for their own country. Rich Edson explains.
An already dire assessment that has gotten worse. U.S. officials now say the Taliban could capture Kabul, Afghanistan's capital city, within the next 90 days. In the past week, the insurgents have secured 9 provincial capitals as part of a campaign that has captured significant territory in rural Afghanistan. The Taliban controls about 2/3 of the country. Despite the Taliban advances, the Biden administration has held to its August 31st deadline to withdraw American forces.
Ultimately, the Afghan National Security Defense Forces have the equipment, numbers, and training to fight back. They have what they need.
Though the State Department acknowledges the situation in Afghanistan is of grave concern. Video has surfaced of the offensive, with the Taliban claiming to have captured helicopters, weapons, and other equipment. The Associated Press reports Afghan President Ashraf Ghani rushed to a northern province surrounded by Taliban-held territory to meet with warlords and rally them in defense of the Afghan government. In Doha, Qatar, the U.S. envoy for Afghanistan, Zalmay Khalilzad, is pushing the Taliban to halt its offensive and negotiate a peace agreement with Afghanistan's government in Kabul. Biden administration officials have warned if the Taliban shuns peace, it risks international isolation. Yet critics say the Taliban clearly has no interest in diplomatic legitimacy.
That the Taliban might respond to the diplomatic plying of the international community? Wishful thinking.
A Taliban spokesperson told Axios, quote, "We have never yielded to any foreign pressure tactics before, and we do not plan to capitulate anytime soon either."
I'm not going to engage in a tit-for-tat with the Taliban spokesperson. It's about much more than legitimacy. It's about what legitimacy can lead to.
There are also reports of Taliban atrocities aimed at civilians, women, and children. When asked whether the administration would consider sanctions, the State Department refused to commit.
Has also announced its long-awaited Summit for Democracy, a virtual event in December involving the world's democracies. The White House says the summit will work to coordinate a defense against authoritarianism, fight corruption, and promote human rights. In India, a landslide leaves at least 2 people dead and as many as 50 trapped under the debris. A bus, truck, and a few vehicles that were traveling on a highway in the hills of northern India are buried under mud and rocks. Local officials say it's difficult for rescuers to reach the victims as the hills remain unstable and are still sliding. Over the past few weeks, heavy rain has caused several landslides in the region. Landslides and flooding are common in India during the monsoon season, which stretches from June to September. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta Poll, it happens to be National Record Day, like the vinyl record. So if you're not in the habit of listening to records, you could pull the old record player out. Maybe it's in the attic, maybe it's down in the basement. You got to go through all the cool records that you stocked up on when in our younger days, as I like to say it. But you do have some top artists that have been releasing their albums on vinyl in the last couple of years. It is making quite a comeback, and post those photos. This is kind of interesting. We're talking about using a record player, and you can post photos to social media. The dichotomy there, record players and social media. Hashtag Vinyl Record Day. Our question to you is, do you ever listen to music on a record player? Right now, 63% of you say no compared to 37% that say yes. I'll be interested to see how that changes here as we go through the course of the show. You can log on, make your voice heard. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Check up today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The Taliban is threatening to seize Afghanistan's capital less than 3 weeks before U.S. troops leave the country. The group already controls roughly 2/3 of the nation's provinces. Despite the Taliban's gains, the White House says the military withdrawal will proceed as planned. Tropical depression Fred is expected to grow stronger as it approaches the U.S. coast. It's anticipated to make landfall over South Florida sometime this weekend. Fred is the 6th named storm of the year, but the first in over a month. Federal health officials are endorsing COVID-19 vaccines for pregnant women and could soon recommend booster shots for people with weakened immune systems. CBS News has learned that the revised guidance is expected to be voted on this week. And a housing complex in Miami is being evacuated due to structural concerns. Renovations have been in the works at the Miami Towers, and an engineering survey of the building's structure found big concerns. The city received a report yesterday morning, which led to an immediate evacuation order. Since it is low-income housing, having to rent a moving truck would be a burden. But the Miami Housing Authority has found temporary housing for residents, and they're standing by to help people move. Several of the tenants are using the help of their friends and family to get the bare essentials, what they can fit in a car, and move to their new temporary home. Once renovations are complete, residents can move back in if they choose to. There's no word on how long those renovations may take. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Heat advisories for today until 8 p.m. as we'll be back up into the mid to high 90s, feeling about like 105 to 107. We can kind of put everything in reverse right here. We'll go down and take a look at old Fred, a low pressure system, now a tropical depression, but he's far from over because as it skirts the northern coast of Cuba right there, looks like it wants to turn back into a tropical storm as it heads towards the southern tip of Florida. Now that's estimated right there about Saturday and Sunday. They've already got tropical storm warnings all along the Florida coast. Back here at home, we'll be up into the 90s by about the noon hour, top out around 97. We've actually rolled back-to-back 97s for Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be right back at it again today. And then after a high during the afternoon around 97, then we get ready for nighttime rain activity. Pushes in from the north, drops down to the south right there. Got some good bouts of some heavy rain that'll last us all the way through Friday morning. Nice thing is much cooler temps on the backside headed into the weekend, as we'll see high 80s and low 90s that begin on Saturday and Sunday. And that means we can finally be done with these heat advisories as we get ready to transition into next week. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Love him or hate him, you can now order a customized message from former New York mayor and Trump's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Jeannie Moose reports on Giuliani's first paid greetings and plugs.
Let's go north then.
From America's mayor to this?
Hi, it's Rudy Giuliani, and I'm on Cameo.
For a mere $199, Rudy Giuliani will send you a personalized video shout out
Or a greeting that I can bring to someone that would bring happiness to their day. I would be delighted to do it.
Rudy's been through a rough stretch lately, sued for defamation by Dominion Voting Systems, his law license suspended in New York and D.C. Critics see him charging for cameos as the social media equivalent of standing on the corner, cup in hand, asking passers-by for spare change. But a Trump fan named Bill, whose greeting was arranged by his two sons, probably enjoyed Rudy's birthday message.
As I'm making this video, we're the same age, but on the 11th, you're going to be older than me. But then I'm going to catch you.
And Rudy's catching up with other public figures on Cameo.
Hello. Okay, what am I going to say?
Sarah Palin's shout-outs likewise cost $199.
Stormy Daniels here.
Stormy charges $250, and Donald Trump Jr.
Look forward to communicating with you guys.
Charges $500 with a portion going to charity. One of Rudy's first cameos was a plug for real estate agent Samuel Chatwin in New Zealand.
Give Samuel Chatwin a call if you have an interest in real estate. Sam tells me that over the last 3 years, he's done negotiated millions of dollars worth of real estate transactions.
Chatwin posted the video on his social media, pointing out Rudy's hand on heart. He told Newsweek, "I have a lot of respect for Rudy Giuliani," and of the video endorsement, Chatwin said it was quite cool. But considering the heights Rudy once reached, seeing him reaching out with paid messages is enough to make your eyes big.
Through the magic of Cameo.
Cameo.
Michael, we need to get on Cameo.
So Cameo will actually, they have an advisor that you're set up with, and they will give you what they think your price point should be. And so it's not like Rudy just came up with that on his own. And then you can adjust that on your traffic and your volume.
So, obviously you looked into this.
Cameo's not new.
I know, but what would, how would you fare then? Like, what would your rate be?
Probably about 50 cents if you wanted me to like wish you a good morning. I think that I would have probably, I'd swear, that would be my starting price point. And then once I realized that nobody wanted me to wish them a good morning, I'd probably drop it to about a quarter.
What if
eventually it'd be about 10 cents.
Let's rephrase this. What if we like teamed up and did it together? Like a dual message?
Well, if you did all the talking, then I think we could price ourselves up in Donald Trump Jr. range.
Ooh, 500.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Right. And I'd just be in the background and be like, what's up, 4 states? But if it was just me by myself, I think I'd start at 50 cents and then we'd drop that. I eventually probably about a nickel to a dime.
Okay. don't underestimate yourself.
The story of my
think
life.
there's a market
Story
for
of my life, Tanya Bach. And so after that, I just will, and usually, some people have like the wish Marcus a happy birthday, Michael. And my cameo will be like, hey, Marcus, it's Michael. I want to wish you. Joe says happy birthday. Like that's the extent of it.
That's kind of what
You don't have to spend like 5 minutes on it.
Yeah. You can personalize it. Tell them a little story.
I could. We should just call it Michael's soapbox. I'd have to pay people to listen to it. Wouldn't even be people paying on Cameo. I'd be like, Michael, how much would you pay me to listen to this?
Your own little personal podcast.
I call that this platform. We'll be back right after this. Now the hot one today, it will be our final day with a heat advisory, but we'll be right back into the mid-90s, just like we have been for really this entire work week, and feeling about like 105 to 107. Overnight, we get a little rainfall that works in from the north and brings us temperatures that are much more manageable for the weekend. Be back right after this.
Coming up, Miami city officials evacuate an apartment building because of structural concerns. We find out what's being done to make sure the residents have a roof over their heads. And a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. Also, how one local school district is using its federal COVID-19 relief funds.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We continue with our heat advisory again today. Let's go straight to Michael with a first look at our forecast.
One more day of the heat, a little nighttime rain activity, and finally some much more mild temperatures as we head into the weekend. Gorgeous sky right now that we have outside the mothership. Going to get some marvelous, marvelous looking Thursday morning hues with sunrise officially over Joplin at 6:32. Let's roll 79, excuse me, in Joplin and in Miami. 78 in Carthage and Chanute, 76 right now in Nevada. So very similar to what we've had past 3-4 days. Skywatch Storm Tracker cloud cover hanging down to the south, but staying on the dry side. And here are the heat advisories. We're now on the far western edge of this heat wave. So it's just about to move past us, and it will by the time we get to tomorrow, as everything is going to shift toward the Mississippi and all the way to the mid-Atlantic up to Maine. It's going to be a scorcher of a weekend on the East Coast. Weather trend for us, we'll go mid to high 90s once again. We rolled 97 yesterday. We'll be right around there. And for tonight, watch everything up to the north. We'll get some pretty good rain that moves in with this. Not looking at anything severe, but luckily our ground's going to be able to absorb most of it because we're still about an inch below where we normally be rain-wise for the month of August. 7-day forecast, not too bad into the weekend as we'll have temperatures in the high 80s, low 90s, all the way into the middle of next week. No more of those alert days popping up on the 7-day forecast. We like that.
Yeah. When do we think the rain's going to move in tomorrow?
I think if you're headed up north, you could see it as early as 7 o'clock in our far northern counties, or if you're going to Kansas City, somewhere around there. But really not widespread until we get past midnight.
All right, we're looking at Friday night then.
No, tonight. Into Friday morning.
Okay, Friday morning.
Right,
okay.
right.
All right.
It should be done though by the time. It should be really an overnight affair, and should be done in time for the Friday morning commute. And even if it is still lingering a little bit, we're not talking about. Like I said, our waterways, our ground right now, it's not saturated. It's going to be able to absorb it, so it's not going to cause any flooding concerns.
All right, as long as the ground's not too dry and it just wants to run off.
Yeah, and I really don't think we're at that point yet. Like I said, as far as our waterways go, I was looking at hydrographs this morning in anticipation of that. We can take on quite a bit right now.
All right, sounds good.
Because it's and you bring up a real good point. But the fact of the matter is, this will be kind of an isolated event for Friday night or for Thursday night into Friday morning. And so what we're talking about there is not one of those 3 to 4 days of the constant rain where, then we start to be like, how much more water can the Neosho, can the Spring, can the Marmonton, how much more can they hold?
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, residents and businesses in the Miami Towers in Miami, Oklahoma have until noon today to move. The city enacted a state of disaster emergency declaration after a survey of the building's structure found it unsafe. KOAM's Zach Dodge has details.
With a few boxes in tow, Miami resident Risa Harvell goes to her apartment without knowing when she'll be back.
This is ridiculous.
Harvell and around 40 other residents at the Miami Towers knew they'd have to move for an upcoming renovation project, but they thought they'd have more time.
We found out about 4 hours ago that we're having to move in a day.
It really kind of upset me.
You did hear that right. Residents were told they had 24 hours to get what they could and vacate the property. The city has been working on renovating the building, which is owned by the Miami Housing Authority, but an engineering report Wednesday morning gave everyone concern.
It says the structure is not inhabitable because of structural damage. We are concerned for the resident safety.
So residents started grabbing what they could.
Told me to move everything in the car as I can.
And filling vehicles inside and out, getting ready to go to their new temporary homes.
To have to pack up and move. I have no family here in town. They're all out of town. And I can't hardly do all this stuff by myself.
That was a concern for many elderly and disabled who had to call on friends and family to help them at the last minute. The Housing Authority says they have people available to help residents move and say they have found somewhere for everyone to go.
They're putting us up in a hotel for right now.
Once the renovations to the building are complete, residents will be able to move back in. But there's no way to know right now how long until that happens.
It's frustrating. And I've been crying. I've been upset about it. I just try not to think about it.
We didn't want to displace anybody, and it's absolutely a life safety issue, and because of the engineer's report, we felt it was something we had to do.
In Miami, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Anderson says after the noon deadline comes today, they'll check the building to make sure everyone has vacated. And if people are still there, the city will help them find where they need to go. Residents who have questions on what you need to do should call the Miami Housing Authority when they reopen this morning. The Neosho School District receives more than $1 million as part of the federal aid from the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, or ESSER. They say last year the money was used for sanitation and other methods for keeping students and staff safe. They plan to continue that, but intend to focus on 3 main areas.
In our district, we are focusing on taking care of our facilities, making sure that our student success, academic achievement goes up with how we spend these funds, and then also how do we support our teaching staff.
The district says some other goals they have for these funds are to sanitize the schools and make it easier to practice social distancing. Well, a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. A groundbreaking on the Lazy Boy Neosho campus Wednesday marks the start of a $30 million expansion of its 550,000 square foot plant. The furniture making plant that began operations in 1970 currently employs about 950 workers and intends to hire 100 more. The expansion includes various upgrades and renovations throughout the upholstery plant, a new medical clinic for employees and their families, and a new parts distribution center. 6:07.
I had 2 cups of coffee, Tanya. One from the 5 o'clock hour, one from the 6 o'clock hour. So the 6 o'clock hour one was 7 minutes past, right? It's nice and hot. One from the 5 o'clock hours, it's not nice and hot.
You don't have to finish it.
That's the one that I took the big gulp of. Whoo! There's nothing like it's not even lukewarm. It's not cold, it's not like iced coffee, because that'd be enjoyable. I don't even know how to describe it. Folks, that's why I'm sitting down right now. Like, my head is trying to process like what my taste buds just went through. All right, it's going to be a hot one today. Heat advisories around 96, 97 degrees. Feeling about like 105 to 107. We got some nighttime rain. It's going to kick in mainly after midnight through Friday morning, but luckily manageable temperatures after that. Ugh. Oh man,
Michael, it's things like that you could add into your cameo that would just raise the dollar rate.
That's why I'm going to end up. That's why I don't ask about this question either. I got a rib issue. That's why I'm over here like this. That's why I'm going to have to end up paying people to watch my cameo.
You're just.
They're going to be like, wish Marcus a happy birthday, and I'm going to be on Cameo complaining about my coffee.
Oh, sorry, I can't do this Cameo standing up either. I need to sit down.
Right. And I'm like, oh, don't make me laugh. My rib, don't make me laugh.
Okay. Well, Michael fixes his problems here. We're going to move on.
I'm a walking disaster.
That's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, prices are going up.
Price of eggs is up nearly 6% in the past year. I'm Alice Gaynor with a new government report showing prices on thousands of consumer goods on the rise.
Plus, millions of Americans suffer from sleep apnea, how it could be a sign of heart issues. And the celebrity chef is combining 2 iconic American dishes to create one ballpark treat. Sure to hit it out of the park. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Well, Jamie Foxx is hitting the road, and the answer Jeopardy fans have been waiting for.
Do you know the answer to the Jeopardy question?
Yes, because I may have read ahead.
Let's just say it pays to be the boss. Anthony Pura has our Eye on Entertainment report.
The burning question on Jeopardy has been answered. Mike Richards, the show's executive producer, will take over permanent hosting duties for the popular game show. He was one of several guest hosts after longtime host Alex Trebek died of pancreatic cancer.
Jeopardy is an incredibly important American institution. It's about making people that are smart the most important people in the room.
Neuroscientist and actress Mayim Bialik, who played Amy Farrah Fowler on the hit CBS show The Big Bang Theory, will host primetime specials and spin-offs, including a new college championship tournament set for next year.
Dear Jordan, just take one look at your mother. Marry me.
Yes. Michael B. Jordan will star in a new film directed by Denzel Washington. Jordan plays Sergeant Charles Monroe King, a soldier deployed to Iraq who starts to keep a journal for his infant son. A Journal for Jordan is based on a true story. It will be in movie theaters in December. And Jamie Foxx is going on a multi-city tour for the release of his first memoir, Act Like You Got Some Sense. The comedian, musician, and actor shares the story of being raised by his grandmother, life in Hollywood, and raising his 2 daughters. The tour launches October 15th in Philadelphia. His memoir comes out October 19th. That's your Eye on Entertainment. Anthony Pura, CBS News, Los Angeles.
I bet Jamie Foxx has some great stories to tell in that memoir.
Oh, yeah, I bet so. Hey, you know what time of year it is?
Yes, I do. Celebrated around the Hayslip household every year around this time. Elvis Presley week. Hello.
Well, I just may have been in Memphis one of those weeks.
Oh, I didn't know it was Elvis Presley week.
Well, kicking off the annual Elvis Presley week.
There's a Elvis Barbie?
This is why I
Am I
want a
reading this
Barbie doll
right?
for us.
Yeah, it's in the jumpsuit too.
Yes, so Barbie is celebrating the king of rock and roll with
Oh,
a new
that's great.
collectible doll.
That's tremendous.
Dressed in Presley's iconic American Eagle jumpsuit, complete with the colorful rhinestones, a white cape, and a red scarf.
All right, Barbie doll also sports Elvis's famous pompadour hairstyle. Elvis Presley week, as we all know, is celebrated through August the 17th.
Okay.
And now I'm laughing about it, and
Okay, I'm just
it
wondering.
celebrates, it memorializes, I should say, more memorializes the anniversary of his death. Why can't we do it for Elvis's birthday,
So
folks?
they did a Barbie dressed up as Elvis is what they did. Was it for licensing purposes or something? Because why didn't they just make a Ken doll Elvis?
That's what threw me for a loop when I found out it was actually Barbie.
Yeah,
I was
literally
with you.
a Barbie dressed up as Elvis.
I didn't expect it to actually be Barbie.
I can't call her Elvis.
There's a Guy Fieri story that I think we teased. We'll come back and hit it later. We'll come back with more KOAM
But we did
Morning News
tease
right
it.
now. It's a hot dog and apple pie. It looks ridiculous. We'll come back right after this.
In Consumer Watch this morning, the cost of living is on the rise. The Labor Department reported consumer prices jumped 5.4% in July from a year earlier. Alice Gaynor tells us what products are getting more expensive.
Filling up at the pump remains pricey, especially for drivers with long commutes.
If I'm having to put, $30 or $40 in my tank every other day,
That's a lot.
A new government report says gas is up 41% compared to last year, fueling a rise in overall prices, including food. The cost of eating out in July saw its biggest one-month surge in 40 years. And shoppers are spending more at the grocery store. Beef and veal jumped 6.5% in the past year. Pork products increased nearly 8%, and whole milk rose 8%.
A lot of these prices have definitely gone up.
And that has Catherine Carcamo changing her shopping habits.
Maybe like a brand that you usually don't buy, or maybe like smaller.
There is a little bit of good news. Even though prices are going up, they're not rising as fast as previous months. Used car prices slowed last month after soaring for most of the year. Airline tickets declined a little from the previous month, but are still up 19% over last year.
Those increases that we've seen continue to put a squeeze on the household budget.
Bank rates, Greg McBride says it's not clear how long the current increases will continue.
We won't know until probably early part of 2022 with any clarity whether or not inflation was just passing through town or whether those higher numbers are here to stay for a while.
Pandemic-related supply chain issues are one factor influencing costs. Once those stabilize, economists believe prices could too. Alice Gaynor, CBS News, New York.
One bright spot in the report is prices for fruits and vegetables are down slightly in the past month. If the seemingly endless summer heat wave has you already craving autumn, Dunkin' is right there with you. The coffee chain is releasing its pumpkin spice latte and other fall menu items on August 18th, earlier than it ever has. Starbucks released its popular pumpkin items on August 25th last year, but has not announced this year's release date yet. Well, share your love of Cheez-Its so the world can see. The company just unveiled a ton of new merchandise to show off your love of Cheez-Its, from aprons and socks to wine coolers and even a fanny pack. The website has a ton of options for all of you Cheez-It lovers. You can also buy a Super Toasty bundle, complete with a onesie, socks, and a blanket for about $140 for a limited time. The website is also selling a Cheez-It Extra Toasty Superfan 4-pack with 3 brand new flavors: extra cheesy, and cheddar jack. That sounds like 3 flavors, 2 of them the same name.
Don't badmouth the fanny pack.
Hey, I didn't. I got excited about that part.
Live look over 7th and Rangeline. Beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning start. We've got 11 minutes until we get to sunrise over Joplin. 79 degrees. And so once again, we will have our heat advisory lasting throughout our afternoon and evening hours. Wind is going to back off a little bit. We'll go about 10 to 15 miles per hour as opposed to the 15 to 20 that we have been rolling. And after we get done with our heat advisory for today, you can tell we're on the far western edge. That'll be our last alert day on the 7-day forecast. Pick up a little overnight rain that's going to drop in from the north as it pushes through. Cooler temperatures on the backside, so high 80s, low 90s for the weekend. We'll be right back after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, millions of Americans suffer from sleep apnea. It affects up to 80% of people with cardiovascular disease, yet it is under-recognized and under-treated. Elise Preston shows us how the American Heart Association is raising awareness.
Jill Friedman has struggled with very high blood pressure for more than 15 years.
We tried 7 different combinations. They would work maybe for 2-3 months and then they would stop working.
It was a new diagnosis that finally helped him get his blood pressure in check. Sleep apnea, a condition that interrupts breathing during sleep.
I was in denial, although I've been told for many, many years that I snore like a truck. Very tired. I would fall asleep almost every afternoon.
The American Heart Association is raising awareness about sleep apnea in patients with cardiovascular disease or risk factors.
This is something that they should take seriously. It can lead to a lot of cardiovascular complications,
including high blood pressure, heart rhythm disorders, and sudden cardiac death, stroke, coronary artery disease, heart attack, and diabetes. The Heart Association says screening for sleep apnea is critical.
You don't have to go to a sleep center to get diagnosed. You can actually get a home sleep study done. In addition to CPAP, which is still very helpful for some of the patients, we have alternative therapies. So if patients don't want to wear a CPAP machine or they're intolerant of it, we can actually treat them appropriately with oral appliances.
Friedman, who works for the American Sleep Apnea Association, uses a CPAP.
I'm never tired in the middle of the day anymore. I mean, I wish I could sleep without having a mask on all the night. But since I can't, it has had a profound influence on my quality of life.
Within a month of using the machine, his high blood pressure was under control, and he's getting a good night's rest, too. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Risk factors for sleep apnea include obesity, large neck circumference, smoking, family history, and nighttime nasal congestion. Young people who are starting or about to start their careers might want to pay closer attention to this. A study from the UK finds that employment experiences in the early stages of adulthood could connect to cardiovascular disease later in life. Researchers found that job and education stress in your late teens and early 20s can predict whether or not you'll have heart trouble in your 40s. Workers who spent more time in school before entering a professional or managerial role showed better signs of heart health than those with other career paths. The authors added that companies need to pay more attention to depression and job demands among younger employees. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
One more day of the heat advisory as we find ourselves on the far western edge of the wave that's now moving across the Mississippi and going to encompass the East Coast by the time we get to the weekend. It's going to be a scorcher for them, but luckily we'll have some milder temperatures here for Saturday and Sunday. Let's go ahead and check on what is now Tropical Depression Fred, low pressure system, but as it regains strength through the Atlantic, we're going to go right back to tropical storm force as it heads toward the southern tip of Florida over the weekend. Here at home, highs around 97 degrees, feeling about like 105 to 107. Same thing as what we did on Tuesday and Wednesday. Overnight, here's the big change. We're actually going to pick up some rain. It begins in from the north. As it sweeps through, we've got some good rounds there of some very heavy rain that's going to come down early Friday morning. Shouldn't be a problem for the commute, though. Should be done by then. And then we can sit back and finally get some seasonable temperatures with 87 on Saturday and 90 on Sunday.
Coming up, Miami city officials evacuate an apartment building because of structural concerns. We'll find out what's being done to make sure the residents have a roof over their heads. And a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. Also, how one local school district is using its federal COVID-19 relief funds.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We're going to continue with our heat advisory today. Let's just go ahead and get to the hot forecast.
Just one more day, though, and then we can actually sit back and get back to some seasonable temps and let the heat wave push off to the east. Gorgeous start outside of Television City. That's a live look from the mothership as we've got temperatures right now that are 79 in Joplin, 78 in Chanute. Let's roll 75 in Monette and Cassville, and War Dog Country at 79 as well. Wind tracker still coming in from the south, but instead of 15 to 20 miles per hour, we're going to dial it back a little bit. We'll go 10 to 15 miles per hour today. Cloud cover hanging down in the southern portion of the 4 states. Gets a little more clear as you move up to the central and northern portions, and there we are on the far western edge of the heat advisory that now stretches pretty much all the way to the Atlantic coast. That's why we only have one more day, and they're bracing for what's going to be record-setting temperatures this weekend. We'll be around 97 degrees for the third consecutive day, and you're feeling about like 105 to 107. Not a whole lot of difference. Here is the difference. It happens tonight into tomorrow morning. Rain dropping in from the north at times. It's going to come down pretty good right there, but it should be done for the morning commute. Anything that's still lingering, it's not going to be torrential nor severe, so that's not going to be bad. And our ground so dry right now should be able to handle most of it. No flooding concerns. 7-day forecast shows the seasonable temperatures after that, even though Friday's at 94. Saturday and Sunday we'll go high 80s, low 90s.
Well,
won't have to worry about the old heat index kicking in there over the weekend either.
it'd be nice to give the AC a little bit of a break, even though, 90 degrees is still hot.
Seasonable though. I mean, average high this time of year, 91, 92.
Yeah.
Right on par.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. A housing complex in Miami is being evacuated due to structural concerns. Renovations have been in the works at the Miami Towers, and an engineering survey of the building's structure found big concerns. The city received a report yesterday morning, which led to an immediate evacuation order. This is a stressful situation for many who've had to call on friends and family to help them scramble. Since it is low-income housing, having to rent a moving truck would be a burden. But the Miami Housing Authority has found temporary housing for residents, and they're standing by to help people move. Several of the tenants are using the help of their friends and family to get the bare essentials, what they can fit into a car, and move to their new temporary home.
We're having to scramble to get our stuff together. We're having to get essentials right now, and then we're allowed back in 3 or 4 days later to get the rest of our stuff. But right now, they're basically just wanting everybody to get out.
Once renovations are complete, residents can move back in if they choose to. But there's no word on how long those renovations may take. Schools across the country have received COVID-19 relief funds to help them safely reopen and maintain safe operations amid the pandemic. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky tells us how the Neosho School District plans to use these funds.
Teachers begin to prepare their classrooms for the upcoming school year. There's a lot of work for administration behind the scenes.
So when you look at the COVID relief funds, there have been just several different items you could spend money on.
These relief funds, also known as Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief, or ESSER funds, are government funds directed towards keeping schools safe during the pandemic. The funding is broken down into 3 rounds. During the first round, the Neosho School District used the money to pay off ongoing expenses.
We will replace all of our whiteboards with interactive flat panel TVs over the course of the next 3 summers. We have used stimulus funds to help with our rotation of Chromebooks and iPads.
The district hopes to accomplish 3 major things through this funding: ensuring that their facilities are kept up to date, taking care of their staff, and ensuring that every student's needs are met academically. That's why the next 2 rounds will go towards professional development and high-quality training towards their teachers.
We believe that if we have better equipped teachers with greater resources and our collaborative efforts are better, our students' achievement will also be better.
Additionally, funds will go towards creating a safer environment for everyone in the buildings.
As a secondary part of all of that, we've used some of the funds to better sanitize, better equip, handle social distancing, some of those things that keep our staff and students safe.
The superintendent says using these funds will free up money to be used to create better resources for staff and students. In Neosho, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
The Neosho School District Superintendent says they'll continue to make decisions on ways to spend these funds at upcoming school board meetings. Missouri Governor Mike Parson announced $30 million in coronavirus aid money will go towards the state's healthcare system. The money will be used for healthcare staffing for all Missouri licensed or CMF certified critical access, acute care, and long-term care hospitals. Funding will be based on a fixed staffing rate. A Tier 1 licensed or CMS certified facility will receive up to $50,000, while a Tier 5 licensed or CMS certified facility will receive up to $200,000. Money will also be used for 5 to 8 monoclonal antibody infusion stations strategically located throughout the state. Site selection will be made in conjunction with regional and local partners. Monoclonal antibodies are proteins that can help the body fight off COVID-19 and reduce the risk of severe disease and hospitalization if administered to high-risk patients soon after diagnosis. Well, a major Southwest Missouri employer is getting even bigger. A groundbreaking on the Lazy Boy Neosho campus Wednesday marks the start of a $30 million expansion of its 550,000 square foot plant. Furniture making plant that began operations in 1970 currently employs about 950 workers and intends to hire 100 more. The expansion includes various upgrades and renovations throughout the upholstery plant, a new medical clinic for employees and their families, and a new parts distribution center. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News.
York will soon have a new governor. I'm Bradley Blackburn with more on the woman who will take charge in an historic first for the state when Andrew Cuomo steps down.
Plus, it's National Vinyl Record Day, so for our Something to Talk About, we're asking, do you ever listen to music on a record player? We're going to let you weigh in, but first, it's 6:37.
One more day of a heat advisory. Temperatures still going to be around 96, 97 degrees today, but some overnight rainfall that works in from the north, mainly so overnight into early Friday morning, is going to bring a cold front. I know that sounds kind of weird when we see this, how we still got 90s up there, but it is a cold front that's going to drop in and make our temperatures much more seasonable just in time for the weekend. We'll be back with Nation Watch right after this.
Topping Nation Watch this morning in New York State, Governor Andrew Cuomo announces he will resign under pressure from a sexual harassment scandal. And now a woman is set to take his place, a historic first for the state. Bradley Blackburn has more on the soon-to-be governor.
Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is a new leader for New York, and she will be the first female governor in the state's history.
In 13 days, I will officially become the 57th governor of the state of New York.
The current governor, Andrew Cuomo, is resigning after being accused of sexually harassing 11 women. Hochul, in her first address since his announcement, promised a fresh start.
Regarding his decision to step down, I believe it is appropriate and in the best interest of the state of New York. And while it was not expected, it is a day for which I am prepared.
The 63-year-old Democrat has served quietly in politics for years as a county clerk, congresswoman, and since 2015, lieutenant governor. But Cuomo has stayed center stage, cultivating a national reputation. Hochul says he's kept her out of his inner circle.
I think it's very clear that the governor and I have not been close, physically or otherwise, in terms of much time.
She says she is working with him for a smooth transition, taking the reins in the middle of the pandemic. Hochul was not named in the AG report that found a toxic work environment that facilitated harassment.
No one who is named as doing anything unethical in the report will remain in my administration.
Hochul, who says she never planned on running for governor before this, tells CBS News she does plan to run for re-election next year. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
The White House says President Biden will meet with Lieutenant Governor Hochul in the coming days. Federal health officials are endorsing COVID-19 vaccines for pregnant women and could soon recommend booster shots for people with weakened immune systems. CBS News has learned that the revised guidance is expected to be voted on this week. Tropical depression Fred is expected to grow stronger as it approaches the U.S. coast. It's anticipated to make landfall over South Florida sometime this weekend. Fred is the 6th named storm of the year, but the first in over a month. The Taliban is threatening to seize Afghanistan's capital less than 3 weeks before U.S. troops leave the country. The group already controls roughly 2/3 of the nation's provinces. Despite the Taliban's gains, the White House says the military withdrawal will proceed as planned. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael with our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta Poll, it happens to be National Vinyl Record Day. If you're not in the habit of listening to records, you can go find an old record player and records. Usually there's in the basement or the attic if you're not listening to them regularly. Some records left the music industry mainstream decades ago, but if you're not aware, they are making a comeback as some top artists have been releasing their albums on vinyl in recent years. Another way to celebrate, visit your local record store. My goodness, those were always so much fun when we were in college. You can post photos to the social media hashtag Vinyl Record Day. I know that also sounds odd. We're talking about turning back the clock there, and then we talk about social media and posting with a hashtag. Our question to you is, do you ever listen to music on a record player? And I had a feeling this was going to switch, even though the nose came out of the box pretty strong. Now we're up to 58% of you saying yes. You can make your voice heard on our Insta Poll by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or connect to us via our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. We'll be back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries next.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Sergeant Logan DeBiley. who served in the United States Army from 2003 to 2013. His hometown, Coffeyville, Kansas. We are proud to salute Logan DeViley, our 4th state hero.
This begins with a big number 1, and it'll come in the form of Tobias Borland. Look at old Tobias out there. I can tell he's got a little attitude about him. He's having fun. Happy big number 1, my man. He's in Carthage.
He wants one of those slices of watermelon, too.
Do you? Throw it up!
That's right. Miss Aniston Kelly turning 12 years old in Uniontown. Michael's got his hands up.
I threw it up for you, Aniston. I got the U up for you. Maggie Lockhart celebrating a 30th birthday. I love the hat and the shirt, Maggie. That's awesome. Maggie's in Neosho Falls.
All right. In Neosho, Joe Watson turning 33 years old today. Hope it's a great one, Joe.
I'm not sure if Joe knew his picture was being taken right there. Or if he's like, why are you taking my picture?
I like the giant ice cream sundae in the background on the wall.
That's going to sound good this afternoon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Randy Warsler, a happy 66th birthday to you, Mr. Warsler.
All right. And we've got Gloria Davis celebrating birthday number 68 in Fort Scott. Happy birthday, Gloria.
We have a 68th birthday as well for Chuck Chandler. Mr. Chandler, I want you to have a marvelous birthday, sir. He's in Chanute.
All right, and Marcine Shearer turning 95 years old. Looking good there, Miss Marcine, in Columbus.
And Mavis Benner, a very happy birthday to Miss Mavis. She is in Pittsburgh.
All right. Fred and Angie Edwards are celebrating their 15th anniversary. Congrats to the Edwards.
And
they're in Presley.
Barbara and Stan Watkins, look at that, they're celebrating their 26th anniversary. And just so happens, they are also in Crestline.
All right. We're going to have the anniversary party in Crestline. Let's see. Let's go to Nevada for a Sweet 16 with Quentin Cruz. BJ McDermott turning another year older in Crestline. And Ella Buzzard in Weir. Happy birthday.
Barbara Reeves is celebrating a birthday in Miami. Barbara, a very happy birthday to you. And Tina Jameson, happy birthday as well. Tina is in West Mineral. Happy birthday and a happy anniversary to all on this August the 12th. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also connect to us on our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Now, here's Tanya Bob with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Just creeping over the sun of the tree line is the sun now that we're officially past sunrise. And there we are outside of Television City. What another gorgeous, gorgeous morning. Even though we've had to put up with the heat wave, our mornings have been so pretty as of late. Current conditions in Joplin sit at 79 degrees. Wind is backed off just a skosh. We'll get there in a second. 79 in Miami, 77 in Iola and Parsons, and how about 78 right now in Carthage. Now, we have been going 15 to 20 miles per hour. We had some 30-mile-an-hour gusts yesterday afternoon. We'll kind of go 10 to 15 variety today, gust up to about 20. I've had some cloud cover just lingering down to the south, but staying on the dry side as we find ourselves just on the western edge of the heat wave, with the watches and advisories stretching all the way now, not only to the mid-Atlantic, but then up to the northeastern portion of the U.S. to Maine. Heat advisories in Maine. My God, look at that. Boston's at 76. D.C.'s at 77. We're at 78. They're going to melt. We do much better in the heat than they do. All right, let's talk about Tropical Depression Fred. And it downgraded from a storm to a tropical depression right now. But here's the thing. As it gets ready to just flood the northern coast of Cuba, this thing's going to pick back up steam. And by tomorrow, going to become a tropical storm once again. And then Saturday and Sunday, that's where we see it approaching the southern tip of Florida. And they've already got tropical storm warnings in effect, anticipating the arrival of Fred. Our weather trend here at home, back into the mid to high 90s, so it'll feel like 105 to 107. And then we're going to get a break here overnight, thanks in part to a little front that's going to deliver us some rain. That'll be some hard rain at times from Thursday night into early Friday morning. As we get closer to sunrise on Friday, it begins to break up a little bit. And the nice thing is it shouldn't affect the morning commute. We'll be done with the heavy rain by then, even though it just kind of lingers around for a little bit. But look at what it does to us temperature-wise. It makes it very, very more seasonable out of the heat wave, and we can roll, you know, high 80s, low 90s for not only the weekend, but into next week as well. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this. Final look at this morning's Insta Poll, where we're asking, do you ever listen to music on a record player, with this being National Vinyl Record Day? I had a feeling this was going to switch as we progress through the show because the no's were overwhelming earlier. Now we're up to 65% of you saying yes, listen to music on a record player. So if you haven't, check it out. It's you know, give you a true taste of what that music used to sound like before, remastered and remixing and all that jazz. Marcus, you're a big audio guy. Our camera operator is. You know the glory of vinyl, right? Yes, sir. All right. He said, yeah, absolutely he does. All right. So you can make your voice heard each and every morning. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, or connect to us through our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. Tanya?
All right, here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Taliban is threatening to seize Afghanistan's capital less than 3 weeks before U.S. troops leave the country. The group already controls roughly 2/3 of the nation's provinces. Despite the Taliban's gains, the White House says the military withdrawal will proceed as planned. Tropical depression Fred is expected to grow stronger as it approaches the U.S. coast. It's anticipated to make landfall over South Florida sometime this weekend. Fred is the 6th named storm of the year, but the first in over a month. And federal health officials are endorsing COVID-19 vaccines for pregnant women and could soon recommend booster shots for people with weakened immune systems. CBS News has learned that the revised guidance is expected to be voted on this week. And a housing complex in Miami is being evacuated due to structural concerns. Renovations have been in the works at the Miami Towers, and an engineering survey of the building's structure found big concerns. The city received a report yesterday morning, which led to an immediate evacuation order. Since it is low-income housing, having to rent a moving truck would be a burden, but the Miami Housing Authority has found temporary housing for residents, and they're standing by to help people move. Several of the tenants are using the help of their friends and family to get the bare essentials, what they can fit in a car, and move to their new temporary home. Once renovations are complete, residents can move back in if they choose to. No word on how long those renovations may take. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
A heat advisory. We're going to feel about like 105 to 107 this afternoon. Actual temperature around 97 degrees. And overnight, hey, now we got a little change coming our way, and it will be in the form of some rain. And at times, some pretty heavy rain as it sweeps down from the north, works to the south right there. A little bit of thunder and lightning. That'll be about the extent of it. We're not going to see any hail or anything like that. And even though it lingers throughout Friday morning, the heaviest stuff will be done by tomorrow morning's commute. Nice little front on the backside of it, as we only have to worry about temperatures in the high 80s and low 90s, not only over the weekend, but all the way into next week.
Right, well, coming up today at noon, we're making Buckeye brownies in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
O-H-I-O.
I knew it.
Really? I'm on board. Morning News continues on KOAM. CBS Morning News coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And we've got the story of a 150-year-old marriage license and its reunion with its owner's descendants.
Today's
Get through this heat wave.
is from Lincoln Elementary School.